Massive parades of jeeps called yipao honor this country's farmers and are held in cities like Armenia and Kalarka. This country produces over half of the flowers imported by the United States. The Irika, the Zipa, and the Zake were three rulers of a confederation of indigenous inhabitants of what is now this country. Its northwest region of Antioquia is inhabited by people called Paisas, which inspired the advertising character Juan Valdez. Groups like Los Pepes fought against the influence of an illegal agricultural ring in this country whose highlands were once home to the Muisca. After Brazil and Vietnam, this country is the third largest producer of coffee. For 10 points, what country in the northern Andes was home to the Medellin cartel of Pablo Escobar? And that would be Colombia. This city contains a set of 9 kinetic art sculptures depicting the Muses by Troy Pillow, located at the corners of the namesake intersection of its 9th and 9th neighborhood. This is the closest city to Farmington Bay, where sewage dumps cause a rotten egg-like stink that lasts for a few hours every year. This city experiences air quality problems as a result of its position between the Oquirrh Mountains and the Wasatch Range. A Bain Capital CEO successfully reorganized this city's plan to host the 2002 Winter Olympics. A Fortune 500 chemical company in this city was founded by John Huntsman Sr., whose son later served as governor of this city's state. For 10 points, name this city home to the headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now would be Salt Lake City. The brother of a ruler of this country died while defending that ruler's residence of Dasman Palace. More than 100,000 people were airlifted out of this country by Air India. This country's government ruled from a neighbor city of Dhahran after tensions with another neighbor arose over territory in Rumaila. This country contains the southern end of Highway 80, where thousands of an invading military's abandoned tanks earned it the nickname Highway of Death. Armored divisions named after Medina and Hammurabi invaded this country and set hundreds of its oil wells on fire during their retreat from forces led by Norman Schwarzkopf. For 10 points, name this small country whose invasion by Saddam Hussein led to the Gulf War. And that would be Kuwait. Swedish royals were once taken on a vice tour of one of these places by Mayor Chuck Connors. These places were terrorized by highbinder assassins. Some people ended up stranded in these places because the Pacific Mail required certification from the 6 companies that debts had been paid before people could board a ship. The architecture in one of these places was deliberately exoticized after a scheme to move it away from the city center following a 1906 earthquake. Benevolent organizations in these places helped their mostly male inhabitants put up the $75 necessary to start a laundromat. Tong gangs held power in these neighborhoods, the largest of which was in San Francisco. For 10 points, name these ethnic neighborhoods often decorated with dragons. And those would be Chinatowns. An art studio in this country employs 4,000 people to create massive monuments for African capitals, such as the African Renaissance Monument in Dakar. Former leaders of this country lend their names to a red begonia and a purple orchid, the latter of which is displayed during the Day of the Sun. This country is home to the world's largest active stadium, which holds an annual mass games during the Erang Festival. This country's eastern bank on the Yalu River was once nicknamed Mig Alley. This country claims that one of its leaders was born on Pektu, a mountain it shares with China, and enforces the official state ideology of Juche. For 10 points, name this isolated country that considers its eternal president to be Kim Il-sung. And that would be North Korea. In this country, the office of the newspaper Respublica was firebombed in 2002 shortly after a decapitated dog was hung from that building with the note, "There will be no next time." James Giffen was a central figure in a scandal movement named after this country, which involved giving bribes to secure contracts over its Tengiz oil field. In this country, the Nevada Semipalatinsk movement successfully advocated for the closing of the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site in 1991. New farms were established in the north of this country as part of Nikita Khrushchev's Virgin Lands campaign. The Soviet space program was based in this country's Baikonur Cosmodrome. For 10 points, Nursultan Nazarbayev moved which Central Asian country's capital from Almaty to Astana? And that would be Kazakhstan. One of these places in Stockholm is supposedly haunted by the Silver Pillen, or Silver Arrow, and features a huge fresco depicting a timeline of human civilization at Risen. The first of these places in mainland Europe was built in Budapest in 1894. Hector Guimard designed several Art Nouveau-style entrances to these places, which were painted green to resemble worn-out copper. One of these places that opened at the 1900 Exposition Universelle inspired a short imagist poem that describes the apparition of these faces in the crowd. Harry Beck created a pioneering topological map for one of these systems that regularly reminds its visitors to mind the gap. For 10 points, identify these public transportation systems that are usually built underground. And those would be metro systems or subway systems. The Vitusek lab uses 4 million year chronosequence in this region to understand the successful dynamics of nutrient cycling. A fungal pathogen and the nitrogen-fixing fire tree are causing the decline of this region's dominant tree, the ohia. The Tanager expedition sought to eliminate rabbits on this region's island of Laysan. Many bird species on this archipelago are threatened by the introduction of the small Asian mongoose, including a goose called the nene. 2 mountains in this region are the only growth sites of Kona coffee. The world's largest shield volcano is on the same island in this chain, at its highest point, the site of an extensive observatory complex. For 10 points, name this archipelago, whose big island is home to Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. And those would be the Hawaiian Islands. A building in this city contains an installation called Fiori di Como that consists of more than 2,000 Dale Chihubli brown-blown glass flowers. Another building in this city focuses 39 xenon lamps to create the world's strongest beam of light. A Yale field trip to this city inspired a book by Eisner, Scott Brown, and Venturi titled For Learning from This City. The nearby unincorporated towns of Winchester and Paradise actually contain most of the landmarks associated with this city, including its McCarran International Airport. A 20-foot statue of Julius Caesar stands in front of a faux Roman building in the city, where Bugsy Siegel helped develop the Flamingo Hotel. For 10 points, name this city whose namesake strip contains the Bellagio, the Luxor, Caesar's Palace, and many other hotel casinos. And that would be Las Vegas, Nevada. The economic term basket case was coined to describe this country, ironic since its GDP per capita is now above or on par with all its neighbors. The Sylheti dialect of this country's national language is often spoken abroad, and the world's longest beach is located in this country at the city of Cox's Bazar. In this country, an international hub for the shipbreaking industry, an area of tribal hill tracts surround its second-largest city, and a well-known wilderness area's name translates as beautiful forest. That area is the mangrove-containing Sundarbans. For 10 points, identify this low-lying country with capital Dhaka. And that would be Bangladesh. The dictionaries of one language spoken in this region were collected and burned en masse by Governor Adalbert Althaus. Another country in this region has moved its capital twice since 2009 and was the proposed site of a probably unethical Creole development experiment by Derek Bickerton. This region is the home of an island on which gigantic circular stones were used as currency, as well as a site known as the Venice of the Pacific. Another country of this region requested that the international date line be adjusted around its borders. For 10 points, name this region, the home of island chains formerly named for Gilbert and Ellis, as well as its namesake Federated States. And that would be Micronesia or Northern Marianas.